What a lad. Well, I try and start every season with a bang by getting the biggest lad there is. He's literally one of the all-time greats, having played 100 times for both the Chiefs and the All Blacks. He's won almost everything there is to win, with Super Rugby Titles, a Rugby World Cup, plenty of Tri-Nations and Bledisloe Cups as well, and he's even won the World Player of the Year for being the best player in the game. And who knows, at the end of this Japan season, he might have just have a top league to his collection as well. But on top of all the trophies and the awards, he is one of the true lads who all the boys love. He's an absolute champion, man. It is, of course, the great Brodie Retallick. Welcome, mate.
What an intro. What an intro. It's great to be on. Good to get involved.
Mate, how do you feel when I sort of read all that out? Because you've had some career, especially when you think about where it all sort of started for you. I know you missed out on sort of the Crusader Academy and to sort of get to where you've got to in your career today. How do you sort of reflect on all of that?
Yeah, it's when you hear someone kind of read it out like that, you think you've achieved a lot, I guess, while you're still playing, and especially the last kind of year and a half, 2 years, it's always kind of like, what's next? Like with the World Cup just been and the Super Rugby season just been, and now I came home to New Zealand for about 3 weeks before coming back to Japan, and we're 4 or 5 games in straight away, but. It's been a hell of a ride coming from Christchurch and, like I say, not really knowing what was going to happen in terms of even playing rugby as a career to what I've done. I definitely can't complain, that's for sure.
Mate, you've had some career. And you mentioned Japan there. Like, how are you finding it over there? How are you and the family enjoying Japan life?
Yeah, we're settled in pretty well. Like, we come back to the Cabalco Steelers, where I came after the 2019 World Cup, so just having that familiarity and knowing where everything is, and kids have gone back to the same school has helped. I think the noticeable kind of step up or growth of the game, there's, like last time I was here, there's probably four or five teams that were really competitive, but like you look at the competition now and there's probably like 9 teams that are seriously good, and we've found out pretty sharply over these first 4 games. We won our first 2, and the first one quite convincingly, but lost a couple of close ones the last 2 weeks. So goes straight into semi-finals and finals is the way the competition is formatted. So you can't afford to drop too many, that's for sure.
It hasn't been much in those games that you've lost though. Like you have got a stacked team on paper. Yeah, you've been in those games and arguably should have won them as well.
Yeah, it's been a hard one to comprehend, a couple of losses. Obviously, we played Toshiba and we were playing Richie Moanga and Shannon Frizzell. I think Shannon ended up scoring 4 tries against us, which, on paper, that probably, looks like we weren't too good. But, we had some tries that were kind of hard to comprehend or just silly mistakes. But like I say, in tough competitions, you've got to be better than that. So we're playing Kubota this weekend, which... they won last year and have dropped a couple of games as well, and some familiar faces in there too, so it'll be another tough one.
Yeah, a matchup of the 2 niggliest players in New Zealand, you and Dane Coles going at it.
I can't wait to see Dane out there again. He's, I know they didn't, him and Liam Williams and Bernard Foley are their 3 kind of international caps, and Dane and Liam didn't play the first 2, but he's been playing well. The last 2, I saw he scored a try last week too, so... he'll be right in the thick of it, no doubt.
Will you get stuck into him? Will you give him some niggle?
I thought last time we played each other was Chiefs vs Hurricanes. I thought, we're too old for this now, like we just leave each other alone. And then he comes on the field and I'm running back from a line, and I think they kicked it and he just pushes me in the back. So, next scrum I went and stood on his toes while the referee was talking to us. My sprigs. I'd like to say we'll leave each other alone, but I can't see it happening.
Yeah, you 2 together. Oh, absolute shockers.
Yeah, I do look forward to it.
Yeah, mate, you love it. But we will get to your journey. You mentioned growing up in Christchurch. What else can you tell us about your childhood growing up?
Yeah, I think like anyone that kind of comes from a small town, and I'm a middle of 3 brothers, so when Amberley is a lot bigger now than we grew up. When we were growing up, there's like 1,000 people in the town, so there's a small group of kids, and we're always sporty. Like my oldest brother was kind of led the way, I suppose. It was like cricket, touch, tennis, rugby, whatever, and that was kind of all we did. It was all summer. Mum and Dad would drive us around, and all winter they'd drive us to rugby, and between the 3 of us, They were pretty busy parents, like a lot of parents these days are.
Yeah. Are your parents tall?
Um, my mum is quite tall for a lady,
Yeah.
and then she's got a couple of tall brothers, so the height
Okay.
comes from the Ashworth side, not the Retallick side, that's for sure.
Oh, true. So what about your siblings? Are they tall?
Yeah, so I got my oldest brother. He was the first five, so that kind of puts into perspective. And
Yeah.
he calls himself the practice stroke. And then and then my little brother, he's like we're centimetre apart in height in terms of
Oh,
height. So
oh, true.
he's tall as well. Yeah,
So when did you get to? When did you have your growth spurt?
I think I was like kind of year eight. So when you're year eight, you're what 12-ish.
Oh,
I
yeah,
know when I turned up
later.
to high school, I again followed my oldest brother. We went into Christchurch Boys High because Mum was working in town, so she just used to drop us off. And I turned up first day um, as a third former, and I was the tallest kid at high school. So
Oh, true.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, so you were real tall. You had a massive growth spurt.
I think I grew like 6 inches in 7 months or something like that, and then that was till about the age of like I say 13, 14, and then I pretty much haven't grown again. So. I've
That is a massive third former.
Yeah, you can imagine how far above everyone else I was as a third former at that school.
So you're basically normal height going through sort of primary school. Not normal height, but like average height in your class, were you?
Yeah, I was. Well, I mean, I was probably always like slightly above average taller, and then yeah, as of kind of that year seven, year eight kind of year period, I just shot up. Like you have the classic pencil on the wall at home, and my one just jumped like jumped massively.
I get the vibe that you were sort of a skillful back as well, maybe a first five as well, like your brother, up until that growth spurt. Is that probably fair or not? What were you?
I still like to think I'm a skillful back. It's like, nah, I was yeah. Growing up, I was number eight till I went
Oh, yeah.
till I went to Christchurch Boys, and then I got chucked in at lock. But yeah, I think as brothers do, play on the lawn, play rugby in the driveway, and he was always trying to step me, and so I was trying to step him back. Obviously,
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
a little bit less coordinated, but
Yeah, how hard was that, having that growth spurt with your coordination and I guess getting that body awareness back again? Because when you have a growth spurt that quickly, I guess that can be quite challenging.
yeah, I think like looking back, like at the time, I probably didn't know exactly like what the difference, it
Yeah,
just happened and that's what it was. But it wasn't until I kind of got to the end of high school and a couple of coaches said, like you just need to grow into your body, you just keep doing what you're doing and working at your rugby. And like I never, back when we were there at high school too, compared to now, we never went to the gym or anything like that. So I guess it wasn't until I kind of went to Hawke's Bay after leaving school that got in the gym and like started to grow that skill set and coordination a bit more, and that's probably kind of where my rugby career took off, was when I started to do those things. But it wasn't until I was like the age of 19 that it started to happen.
yeah. So was there any other sports that you were looking to? You said you played a lot of sports, but were any of them something that you thought could be a potential career? I mean, basketballers love any tall player. There's heaps of sports where height becomes a real benefit. Did you think of any other sports?
Yeah, because we were day boys, and we obviously, for people that don't know, like Amberley is like a 40-minute drive. So I used to play a little bit of basketball, but then basketball used to be on a Friday night before Saturday rugby. So
Oh yeah.
we kind of, instead of driving back and forward, we dropped basketball and focus on rugby. But when I was at Christchurch Boys, I used to row. I was a rower, and not that I ever thought it was probably going to be a career at all, but between rowing and rugby were like the two sports that I took the most seriously. I gave up cricket at about 15 because I spent too many daisies in the outfield when it became 2 days. The attention span wasn't good enough for that. So, yeah, rowing and kind of rugby are definitely the two I took the most serious.
True. I heard you're a bit of a wizard at water polo too, potentially because you could touch the bottom of the pool at third form.
Push off the bottom. Yeah, I mean, we like similar, like just gave everything a go really, because it was what we did. We used to play water polo, and my brother used to play tennis, so he used to play tennis, and I guess after a while, all those things start to combine and come together to help you become a better sportsman.
Yeah, 100%. What assets do you put down to your rowing. How do you think that's helped you in your rugby career?
Yeah, I think it probably, yeah, like mentally being able to push yourself and from rowing. Obviously at times you're in a boat with 4 or 8 other people, but the kind of training you're doing as a 15 or 16-year-old, sometimes we were on ergs for 30 minutes at a time doing max efforts and then jumping in a boat. I know at times we had to get up and be at Kerr's Reach in Christchurch by 6 in the morning, so we used to leave home about 5 a.m, go training, jump on our bike across town, and then go to school for the day, and then jump on the bike again and go back and row in the afternoon. So, like, you look back now and think, geez, it's like that was a crazy amount of training for like a 15, 16-year-old, but I guess it kind of built that mental resilience.
Yeah, built that massive ticker that you've got. It's definitely helped you throughout your rugby career.
Yeah, I think like I used to think it would help my rugby training for the winter, but I soon learned that like pushing in a boat doesn't correlate to running the roads. So yeah, I had to start running again. That's for sure.
Yeah. So when you got to the end of high school, you didn't make the Canterbury or Crusaders Academy at the time. What was your pathway there, or the decisions that you had to weigh up then?
Yeah, so like kind of how I said, like at school we just used to train twice a week, go play on a Saturday, and grab a box of beers, and that was it. That was until next week. But so at school I was in like the Canterbury kind of like I had a schools academy you call it, and similar thing we'd go and train twice a week. And honestly, I don't really think rugby was even going to be a career. Obviously, I enjoyed playing rugby, had done it the whole time, and left school and all coming to the end of 7th form, and there was no spot in like a pre-academy or academy. And kind of the last 3 or 4 years before that, Hawke's Bay had signed a few Canterbury players, like Ash Dixon and Ryan McLeod, guys from Christchurch Boys. There was a bit of a link between the head of hostel and Tom Coventry.
Yeah.
And they asked if I wanted to go up and have a look around, and I was just going to go to the Polytech in Christchurch and start my engineering apprenticeship, and they kind of said, I think at the time it was like they signed for like $15,000, and they would pay for me to go to the Polytech up there and do the same course. And so me and my dad, we flew up there one day and had a look around, and he was like, "Shit, son, I don't know how you're going to live on $15,000, but like you're going to be on your own." So anyway, I was like, wow, I mean, it saves me paying for my Polytech, and I can go and earn a little bit of money and play rugby, And me and my older brother, I think it was early January 2010. Yeah, we jumped in the car and drove up to Hawke's Bay and got stuck in, really.
Far out. How did you live off 15,000?
A lot of tuna and crackers.
Well, it still bulked you up, didn't it?
Yeah, I thankfully my cousin, they come from Hawke's Bay. One of them was living in Napier, so I went and lived with him and his partner, now his wife, for about a year, and they would come off a farm, so managed to eat a lot of their food and scrimp by. I think got the $15,250 student allowance each week, and
and then obviously incredibly quick growth in your game and your career from there. Like 2 years later, I think you're in the All Blacks, but you've won Super Titles, you played New Zealand 20s. How did it happen so quick? Like, obviously play a big year of NPC almost straight away.
Yeah, so obviously, like, in Hawke's Bay, the player pool was obviously a little bit smaller, so we got chucked straight into the academy, and probably similar to rowing, like, we just trained a lot, and I hadn't obviously trained like that before, and I just probably showed like the benefit of if you're prepared to put in is what you get out, sort of thing. And we were in the gym and skills training, club training, like four days a week, 2 sessions, and got alongside, I guess, because the smaller kind of player pool, we were alongside the I-Team Cup coaches the whole time, and Tom Coventry was coaching the Magpies with Peter Russell, and he just kind of said, this is what I want from a lock. Like, if you can go do it, I'll give you your opportunity, and but first target the New Zealand under-20s. So yeah, just went about it, really, got in the gym, training hard, and then that under-20s year rolled around, and I guess it gave me a purpose, or like knew exactly how I wanted to play the game, because that's what Tom had told me, and then made the 20s, went to Italy, and it was like that team was the first experience of like a professional, semi-professional team, and the players that are in it, I think there's one that hasn't played professional rugby, so it like shows you the standard of people around, and I guess you just like start to love it when you get a taste of it, and came back and I was playing a little bit of club rugby, and then one of the Hawke's Bay locks was sick during the week, and Tom said, "Oh, you're either starting or you're not, and not going to play." And then Ross Kennedy was his name, and in the end he was sick, and I just got chucked in the starting team and into it.
True. How'd you feel? Did you feel ready? Or?
I think I was like, I remember being confident, like I'm ready to go, like I want to have a crack.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like you look back now, I was just running around chasing rucks, like probably doing absolutely nothing.
Well, I don't know about that, because you kept your starting spot for the rest of the season, didn't you?
Yeah, well, so there was, and then I played one more game against Auckland, and then the next season was like started pretty much all of them. But it was, I guess, a sharp learning curve. But at the same time, it's like I appreciated it because I got the opportunity to experience it, and from experience you learn, and sometimes like people have to wait a while in different clubs and franchises, but for me it was like I just wanted to get out there, and that's how I become a better rugby player, was by doing it. So I was thankful for the opportunity.
Yeah, and even I remember talking to Mike Coman, the great Moo, about your mindset, your training mindset. He always admired how you'd. He said when you first got there, you couldn't catch a kickoff to save yourself. Every day after training, you'd be out there catching kickoffs, even though you're no good at it. But like after maybe a month, you were now unreal at catching kickoffs. So just that mindset of being able to practice something even though you weren't that good at it. I know a lot of guys always have that sort of embarrassment, especially young guys, of practicing something they're not good at because they don't want to be judged. But you obviously had no issue with that.
Yeah, I didn't really have an issue with, like, I always got told too, like, you're making a mistake, you learn from it, and I guess that kind of that philosophy. But I also, like, when I moved to Hawke's Bay, I was 18, like I didn't really have any mates. I knew no one in Hawke's Bay apart from my cousin. Like I was probably a little bit of a loner, but so like all I do is go and train, like and I guess I did have that drive, like I was there, had gone there with that opportunity, and I didn't want to miss it. So I tried to do the extra skill work and gym work to become a better rugby player.
Right, so cool. And was it your relationship with Dave Rennie from the 20s that got you to the Chiefs in the end?
We had Cowboy Anscombe as our head coach. He came in after Renz, but the connection was Tom. So I remember at the time had played that full season My Team Cup, and the Hurricanes had said to me, I think it was like a wider training squad spot, and then maybe 1 or 2 years full afterwards.
Oh yeah.
And then Tom obviously got the Chiefs job alongside Dave, and he said to me one day, he's like, "Mate, we'll give you a full spot, a full contract, 2 years. You come to the Chiefs with me." And I guess I was always going to take that over a wider training squad, and then having Tom and a couple of players that I played 20s with in the Chiefs squad, it was the option for me.
Mate, and straight away you're in there, you're winning Super Rugby titles. It was all too easy for you.
Yeah, it was. I look back now in a little bit of hindsight, like how good a group and not how easy it was, but like I now realise how hard it is to do.
Yeah.
From the years afterwards, but yeah, it was kind of similar. Like I turned up to the Chiefs, and Craig Clark and Romana Graham with only two established locks from the years before, and it was me and Michael Fitzgerald from Manawatu.
Yeah.
But Romana Graham had headbutted someone in the what do they call it, NPC, like final. So there was only 4 locks, so there was 3 available. So one of us had to start, and same thing. I was like, oh well, this is an opportunity, like you don't want to miss out on. So I just got stuck in, really.
How'd you find the step up?
Oh, Well, at the time, me and Sam Kane and Shane Cleaver and my wife, we all lived together, and
Yeah.
like we would just come home and sit on the couch and fall asleep pretty much. Like and she sometimes jokes about how like we just come home and say nothing to her and just sit there and watch TV and go to bed. Like,
Well, you're still together now. She obviously loved it.
yeah, she hung in there. Like, thankfully, it's still painful chat probably, but
It's probably better than the painful chat.
yeah, like, and at the time it was the Chiefs were building their training facility, so we were training at a high school, and we're on the bikes, biking everywhere, training, like smashing down walls, and yeah, it was some hot summers back, hot summer training, that's for sure.
Yeah, and by all accounts, the intensity of the trainings for the Chiefs back then were always pretty heated, especially on I think it was the Thursday or the 2 day before a game session. Always sounded like it was basically a game for the guys who weren't playing or the starters to go at it. Was that about right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, like same thing. Like it was kind of my first 2 years, and I didn't know any different. But now I look back and then like, geez, we like the amount of fighting that went on at training, and not because like we didn't like each other, just because how competitive. Andrew Strawbridge was in there and pretty much said like you don't lose a one-on-one battle, like that's how you lose on Saturday. So
Yeah.
boys were just competing and getting stuck in. I remember like mate, first pre-season somewhere in there, I got chucked into a line out, and Ramana Graham, obviously like he couldn't play, so he would just like pulled me out of the air, and I couldn't set them all in the air, pulled me out, and Tom was like, do it again. He did the exact same thing to me, and he's like, Brodie, you're out. Running around. And I was like, oh well, if it's good enough for him to do it, then I'm going to do it, you know. So I pulled him out of the air, and the next thing they were all pushing.
Next minute, you're headbutting everyone.
Yeah.
Is that where you got your love for niggle? Because were you always a niggly player even coming through school, or was it around that Chiefs time where you learned a bit more of a niggle craft?
Yeah, it was all from those 2 or 3 years, I think. Like at school, I wouldn't have said Pete, you know, and then just worked out. Like if someone's having a bad day, you might as well reinforce it if it's going to help you win, you know.
Yeah. Oh, that's good stuff. So you're great, and then at the end of that season, you're starting in the final, aren't you?
Yeah, I think I might have started all but one game that season. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, just because we lost first game versus the Highlanders, and then I think we went on won every one, and I don't know, you get 20 years old, got nothing to worry about, and just week in week out, just trying to perform, and it's pretty uncomplicated back then.
Yeah, it's crazy, eh? To think where you came from around not making the academy 2 years earlier, and then 2 years later you're starting in a Super Rugby final. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. No, I've thought about it a few times. Like it took. I don't know how. Like I don't really know how it happened, but like I still think now I was like pretty lucky to do that, and even make the All Blacks when I did, and have the career. It's been pretty special.
Yeah, so it was on the back of that Super Rugby season you make the All Blacks. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it was around the middle of that first year. They had like a camp of, I can't remember how many players, 38, 40 players of they might pick or were looking at, and got called to that. And then we played the Blues. just turned 21 that week. Had gone out and had a few beers midweek, and then we played the Blues in North Harbour and come off the field, and Darren Shan was in the tunnel and said that you made the All Blacks, so had to cancel my 21st birthday party and we play a test match instead.
Oh, true. So did you have a big 21st lined up? All your mates had come from everywhere?
Yeah, like since I'd gone to Hawke's Bay, I hadn't really been home that much, and
Yeah.
I was going to have it back in Christchurch and have my 21st, and then I had to send out a message a couple of weeks before it saying, sorry, party's off.
So where was your debut?
So debut was in 2012 versus Ireland at Eden Park.
Oh, yeah.
And there was me, Nuggy, and Julian Severe all debuted the same night against them.
Far out. And what are you feeling? Were you starting off the bench?
it was like a similar scenario. We're like sitting in our rooms, and back then Steve Hansen would ring you, and it wasn't not everyone had cell phones even back then, and he'd ring the room that your like your hotel room and be like, come see me.
Yeah.
And I think I was in a room with Sam Kane, like just in there, and he got the call. Go see him, and anyway, I went back to my room. I was like, I'll just go wait in my room, see what happens, and it never rang. And then I didn't sleep at all. Like, I was like, oh shit, am I going to be playing? Like,
Yeah.
team gets named, and I was probably more worried about doing the haka and not stuffing that up than the actual game. But
Everyone says that, eh? The
yeah,
anxiety of a haka on your debut sounds like it just takes all your thought away from playing the game.
yeah, it was a few years ago. I was, we were in Perth, like around the COVID time, and I ended up captaining one game. I was still watching the haka on YouTube, like on the way to the game, because I didn't want to be out the front and stuff the haka up, Like,
The haka on YouTube must have millions of views, mainly from the All Blacks themselves, around just
yeah.
refreshing their memory of what the actions are.
End of the day, you should put that on their website. I reckon it's going to be a revenue maker.
So your debut went well, though?
I think so. It was a bit like ITN Cup. Like it was just so fast, and before you knew it was half time, and then I think I played maybe 60 minutes, roughly all up. But yeah, things just happen so quick at Test match level. It probably takes you 15 odd games to get used to it. That's why I always reckon like judging someone on three or four opportunities at Test matches is tough. It's like it's so much faster than Super Rugby, and people are stronger. It does take a while to adapt, but and also the speed of the game is just so much quicker. But it's a special moment, like playing at Eden Park in front of a New Zealand crowd, and the Irish, and we won. So. It was some pretty fond memories.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear more about the speed than the physicality. Like, I often hear people talk around the intensity of the collisions at Test match, but you feel like it's the speed of the game where it's just everything's just so much quicker.
Yeah, everything's just so much quicker. Like
Yeah.
you just don't have time to react. Or like. You put Rico Ioane against me, like speed wise, like if like you just can't catch. You can't. I can't catch him. No way.
Yeah.
So like when you've got the backs that quick, all 7 of them on the field or whatever it is, like it is so much quicker. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, what was the key for you to be able to adapt to that speed or handle that speed increase?
Yeah, I guess like you aerobically, like you become used to it.
Yeah.
Like I always like first test of the year, no matter first year or 7th year, always the hardest day. Like you just blowing, it takes out of you, getting used to it again. Like I would just get in the shower after the test match, just be an absolute wreck,
Yeah.
like physically because it's just taking it out of you. But I think like you start to read the game and try and like anticipate where things are going to end up. Like where the ball's going to end up. I always found like for me anyway that was like a big part of my game of like anticipating where the next ruck was going to be. So you're not running a big U-shaped line. You're trying to make the straightest line possible and save as much energy.
Then a couple of years later from your debut, you're named the best player in the world. What's that like? What's that feeling like? Not many people get to experience that.
Yeah, it was
Especially that young. I think you're the youngest ever too.
yeah,
Still are.
I don't know. I was actually we were in Wales and like been to go watch a movie on the day off, and there was 10 or so of us, and then Jerome Kino come up to me and was like, "Oh, congratulations, how good?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Oh, you're nominated for Player of the Year." And I was like, "Oh," it just wasn't even on my radar. To be fair, like
Yeah.
some people can obviously set goals, like they want to be, that's what they want to achieve, do this, but it was just one of those things that came from playing within a good team, and I guess like I was playing well, and yeah, it wasn't something I was looking to do, put it that way, but it's pretty awesome to be able to say that I won that.
Yeah, so what's that like? You go to the awards, you don't know if you've won or not.
When I received it was Steve Hansen said he knew 2 or 3 days before I knew, but we're just on the field, and then I seen him like running out this like a background, with sponsors and World Rugby and stuff on it, and then
Oh
a
yeah.
couple of boys like, "You've won it!" Like trying to cheese me
True.
up, and then got presented the trophy plaque thing just out on the field, and yeah, it's obviously pretty happy and stoked. So it was a big night that kind of entailed from the back of that.
Yeah, I bet, mate. And like you're playing with legends of the game at this point, like all some of the biggest names of New Zealand rugby are in your team at that side. Was that a little bit awkward? Like I think you were 22 or something, and you've come on the scene pretty quickly, and now you're voted as a better player, like the greatest player in the world.
Yeah, I don't remember it being awkward. To be fair, I remember like just being happy and saying. I remember Richie saying like, "No one can ever take that away from you," and like, "Well done."
That's cool.
I think that's what makes them like so good, such good players and people. Is like there was like not that I noticed or any jealousy or it was like
Yeah,
stoked to do it, and like to say like I remember walking on that bus and looking down the back and at times thinking how awesome it was that you got to play with players of that caliber and like you
yeah,
say legends of the game.
yeah. And then the following year, you're off to the 2015 Rugby World Cup as the best player in the world. How was it going into that Rugby World Cup?
Yeah, it was like not that saying that like made me cocky or like I don't know, but like I guess in the back of your head you had, kind of had that expectation, like oh you just been named that. I remember
Mm.
Aaron Cruden saying, "Oh you've gone a year too early, like should have been World Player of the Year at 15, not 14." Like, but I think the era of and the All Black team and the performances and the results that got like it was a dream really. Like you had all that experience there. Some of those guys were onto their fourth World Cup and the learnings in terms of the leadership and preparation that was put into it. I think we were far more prepared like going into 15 than we were 2019 in
Mm.
hindsight and I think a lot of that comes down to like those players that had been there for such a long time and knew exactly what was needed and what needed to be done.
And you look at sort of the World Cup teams who have been successful. They generally are in that older age bracket. Do you think that's a big part of it? Those guys who have been in it, been in the moments, they've experienced so many different games, and they know how to handle those pressure situations.
Yeah, definitely. I think like it kind of how I said before, like it's like getting used to a normal test match, but like being in a World Cup playoff, there's no greater pressure. Um, like even the France final week, like it's not a breeze in terms of your training week, but there's just the mental pressure of going in there to perform, and you're either walking out of there a hero or you're walking away with a silver medal, and I think that in the arena is the greatest pressure that I've experienced as a rugby player,
Yeah.
and by being there only makes you more confident before I think.
What game's been the one that you've been the most nervous going into out of all of them?
Um, that's a good question. Probably the 15 final.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, like again, there's like obviously World Cup final just gets no bigger,
yeah,
and then the first World Cup final, like you don't know what to expect, and us versus the Wallabies and Twickenham, they've beaten us earlier in the year for the Rugby Championship,
yeah.
um, and at the same time just performing for like all those guys who were playing their last Test match that obviously helped so much over the last 3 years before that.
Well, it's pretty cool. You've been to three Rugby World Cups. You've got a gold, silver, and a bronze. So you've got
Got
the
the
whole medal
collection.
table. Um, what memories stand out from each of them? I guess you've spoken about the 2015 one. What about the 2019?
Yeah, 19 was like an interesting one in terms of like I personally feel like 15 like we were just so well prepared and we knew exactly how we were playing our game. I'm not sure how much you've heard, but like we even in the early pool stages, like we won quite convincingly, but we trained probably harder during the week to build towards the playoffs, and then I don't know, it was not like the perfect recipe, but like there's the French in Cardiff where they've beaten us before, and then to play the Wallabies that have beaten us in the final. Whereas 19, we are probably a little bit more cluttered in terms of how we were going to play and have our understanding. And Again, like I say, we had experience of World Cups, but not probably like the team or the squad before. So yeah, it was. I'm not going to say the one that got away, but I felt like the French one, we were better prepared in England and France than we were in Japan.
What do you remember about the recent French games?
Yeah, it was some awesome rugby to be a part of. Like I think in terms of playing Stade de France, it's probably right up there with one of the best stadiums. And
Is it true?
like in the opening game when obviously we got beaten, like I've never heard an atmosphere like that before, with the crowd singing and the people and just probably the elation from the French people, you know. And then
Yeah.
it was the other way around 4 weeks later when we beat the Irish, and yeah, it's like it still hurts a lot. To be fair, I think from we pretty much did all we could with obviously with the cards and playing with 14 men for a long period of time. But yeah, again, it's like, geez, what could have been, I suppose.
Yeah. So when you lose the red card and you're playing with 14 men, are you still really confident that you can get the job done?
Yeah, well, when we played the South Africa and Twickenham, like 10 weeks before that game, like we
Yeah.
played them there, and we had a similar scenario. So we'd actually put in heaps of time. Like we went to Germany after that game, and probably for a day and a half of training, just recreate scenarios, red cards, yellow cards, different players out, what we would do. So when it happened, it like wasn't a shock because we were kind of prepared for it. I guess at the end of the day, like two of the best teams going at it, there's not much room, there's not much opportunity, and we just didn't quite get the opportunities to get across the line, and they were able to squeeze the points on us, you know.
Yeah. Oh, you watch that World Cup and you just realise how such small margins define, especially those big games. I guess you're on the right side of it with Ireland, which was probably one of the best games I've watched as a spectator. But even in that final, like such small margins are deciding these games.
Yeah, and like a game versus South Africa to Ireland, like there's a bit more. It's a bit more, like a bit more opportunistic. Like there's tries to be scored and people are playing attacking. Whereas with South Africa, like you know what you're going to get and the opportunity to score because defensively, like I think Steph Toit made 27 tackles in a
Yeah.
test match. Like it's unbelievable, you know. Like I don't even know if I've ever seen anyone make that many tackles in a test match. Like so, it shows how hard and how well they are defensively to break.
Yeah, they were hard tackles too. They were flying. Do you find that South Africans still probably the most physical pack to play against?
Yeah, I think they're still they in the way they play the game. There's not much footwork from their forwards. They're just all about running over top of you, and they obviously train and get in the gym to build that size. Whereas from a New Zealand point of view, we're like want to use our footwork, want to use our skills. So it's like a clash of probably the two different styles. I know when we played them for 2 or 3 years, and they're just box kicking and
Yeah.
it's like from a playing point of view, it's not much fun to play against either. Like for a style that I like to play anyway, but it's what makes the game it is, I suppose.
Yeah, mate, it's fascinating. Cool to get an insight from your seat. And I guess another big sort of All Black Test match that you've been involved in was the Lions tour when they came here. What do you remember about that one?
Yeah, it was. It's like one of those opportunities, like when you're playing international rugby, that you want to be a part of, and after the World Cup, like it was all you're looking forward to was when the Lions come and be in a position to be able to play them. Um, again, like one in Auckland quite easy, and then go down to Wellington. Um, the one moment that like sticks out for me is like when they scored in the corner. Faletau scores in the corner. Like I don't know. I was just like coming from the inside, like, and I knew it was going to happen, but I just wasn't fast enough to get there. And Daggy kind of half got him, and I missed him, and he scores. Like again, like, it's just those moments, and it would have had the thing sealed up. And again, it came down to a ref's call at the end of the third match that, rightly or wrongly, that was decided the series, I suppose. And I would have loved to say that had won over a series over the Lions. That's for sure.
Yeah, mate, and what is it, every 12 years? Don't come around very often, do they?
No, that's the thing. Like, if you're lucky to fall within the rotation, the 12 years, that's one thing. And then to obviously say you beat them. But yeah, like when the amount of support, I remember we were in Auckland for that first test match, and the amount of supporters just walking around the streets, and it's pretty special to be a part of. And I think, like, in terms of like the game, it needs to stay around, for what it does for obviously the economy of countries, but the experience of the rugby and for the fans, it's something pretty special.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on a Southern Hemisphere type Lions group? So combining the Southern Hemisphere teams, how do you reckon that would go?
I reckon it'll be pretty interesting, to be honest. Like, you get imagine the mix of like the team, like it'd be a tough one to pick. But if you did a similar thing, like you had kind of two squads and played a midweeker and a Saturday test, and you could pick and choose, like, I reckon it would generate plenty of interest, and I'm sure it's something. Like, look how many boys love playing for the Barbarians. Like, I guess it's something similar. Like, it's a good way to meet people and play with people you're normally playing against.
Have you played for the Barbarians?
I haven't. In 2020. Andy Ellis and Dan Carter were at Kobe, and they were going to go play. And Andy said Robbie Deans was coaching, and he said, "Would you be interested in going?" And I said to Andy, "I'll pretty keen." And then COVID hit the world, so it never progressed any further. So, if anyone from the Barbarian Association is listening, I would love to do it at some point.
Mate, you'd be one of the great Barbarians, I reckon.
It never had much interest in me to like fly home from an India tour and jump on a plane and fly all the way back to Europe. But like from where I'm at now, I'd definitely love to give it a go.
Yeah, and you speak about Japan, like where you are now. Your decision to take your sabbatical after that Rugby World Cup, how hard was that decision, or was there offers anywhere else that you were weighing up in that time?
Not really. I think probably the only decision I was contemplating was if I was to come here and stay and not go back to New Zealand, or if I would, because at the time I had talked to Kobe, and I pretty much said to New Zealand Rugby, like, I'm going to go, and if you want me to come back, like, I would be keen, but if not, then I'll stay, over there. And they said that they were keen to have me come back afterwards. But like, it was from a refreshing point of view in terms of coming to a new culture and a new club, new coaches, different ideas. I think it was like massively important to being able to get through to the end of the next World Cup. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's interesting. So do you feel like it's a really important play from New Zealand Rugby to keep the sabbaticals and give these guys who have been in the same environments, doing the same training, same training grounds, etc., to have an experience, come back, refresh, and get a bit more time out of them?
I think so. And like when I came here last time, like our team we were on fire sort of thing. Yeah. Like, and at times we were beating people by like 80, 90 points. And I understand that's like, that's not always ideal. But now the competition is getting so much harder here. Like, they changed the passport rule, so you don't need to qualify for a Japanese passport. You just need to spend 4 years in the country. So there's a lot more foreign players playing in the competition. So the rugby quality is like improved massively. But from a mental side of the game, like, that was the biggest refresher for me, just mentally. And I was actually like really mentally hungry to get back to New Zealand and start playing again. And I guess I knew I'd had the break and I wanted to prove myself again, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And how hard was that to come back, especially, I guess, the physicality of the game, especially Super Rugby or international rugby, from the Japan League, which is probably played, especially that first time you went over there, was definitely played a little bit differently.
Yeah, I think it's probably the one thing that I wouldn't do again is come to Japan and go straight back to Test rugby. Like, from the leap of intensity and physicality, and looking back, was probably just, it took me a little bit to get used to again. And also maybe didn't help, like, with all the stuff that was going on around off the field with the All Blacks and coaches and stuff. Like, I talked to Jace Ryan before I left, and I said, like, for anyone that's doing it, you just got to instill confidence back in them that they're still good enough to do it, and still play at this level when they come back. I think that's what took me the longest, was just finding the confidence to be the player again rather than anything physically.
And you mentioned all that sort of background drama. Like, how much involvement do you have in that? Are you a big part of the leadership group? Do you jump in on all those sort of decisions and meetings?
I've been in the leadership group of the All Blacks since 2014, I think it was.
Oh, far out. Youngest ever in the leadership group too, probably.
I've seen a few leadership meetings. It's not me. Sorry, in terms of the leadership, like around the team and stuff, then yeah, I enjoy it. But all the stuff that goes on, like in terms of the coaching appointments and all that, it's not me. Like I stay out of that. And there's no way to hide from it. When it got to the spot it did around the coaches, like it becomes a distraction. And for me, it's keeping things as simple as possible to perform on Saturday. Is what works best for me.
Yes. So what's the key to, well, we often hear about the All Blacks leadership group and how incredible they are, I guess. Like, what's the key to that leadership group being so good?
Yeah, there's probably a few elements, and like they always say, and it always comes back to being the best performers on the field. Like, obviously experience in the test arena helps, but the stuff that people don't see is probably all the learning in terms of around leadership and leadership qualities that we do. Like in the off season, we would meet 3 times a year for a good day in Christchurch or Auckland, and have leadership coaches there and talk about things from the previous test season that we would do different. At times we've done stuff with like New Zealand Police around communication and making decisions under pressure and focusing on like what's important and what's not. And I think like what makes up some of the best leaders just from learning this is like communication, is knowing what to say and how to get it across to your peers, because everything understands things differently.
Yeah, and what's that like for new guys coming in? Because that's one thing. I always talk to guys who, when they go into the All Black environment, feel very uncomfortable, feel like they don't deserve to be there in their head, but you always seem to be made pretty welcome from the start. Like, what's the key to that?
Yeah, I think it's like pretty much what you said is like, if you've been there a while or an older players, like just making people feel comfortable and be themselves. I mean, but when I made it, like you had Corey Jane and Izzy Dag, like two of the biggest jokers, just like taking the piss out of everyone. But then you had the older boys like Richie and Kiwi that would, when they needed to draw a hard line, would. And
yeah,
I think that's key. And obviously the coaches play a massive part of the environment of working alongside the players and making them feel comfortable. But if you've got people pretending or trying to be something that they're not, then it's hard to then ask them to express themselves on a Saturday night,
Yeah, on and off the field, which I hear you go very well at. Both.
I'm getting too old now, mate.
Well, it gets harder, eh?
No, it does.
And I'm hesitant to bring this one up, but the Chiefs final last year, like you spoke about the 2 Super Rugby titles you get at the start of your career, it's all too easy, and then you have, I guess, a relatively rough patch for a decent period of time. Last season, no doubt the best team in the comp throughout the competition, basically up until the final, and arguably were even the better team that night. But what do you remember about that season, and how tough was that one?
Yeah, I've only just paid my debts for that final as of last week.
Who was that to?
Well, when I come to Kobe, I touched on Andy Ellis was here, and when we went back, he was back in New Zealand, I was back, and he texted me and said, "Oh, why don't we put a dozen red wines on the Crusaders Chiefs?" And I was like, "Yeah, obviously I'm back in the team I'm playing for, and let's just say I've paid him more dozens of wine than he's paid me over the last 3 years." But yeah, we obviously had one on the final, and I've seen him twice, I think. He goes, where's my dozen of wine? And I said, I'm not over it yet, mate. Like, when I'm over it, I'll pay you. And then obviously being a new year, in 2024 now, I messaged him. I said, mate, your wine's on the way. I can let it go now. I'm finally over it. But yeah, like I say, it was just one of those years where everything kind of clicked for us, and I think like credit to the Chiefs, like and Donk and the organisation, like they had a plan around like when they had recruited players, and like I don't think there was many players that in that kind of match day 23 come to the final that at least didn't have a couple of years Super Rugby experience, and like, as you know now, like experience and time in the saddle with Super Rugby is not what it used to be. So having that squad that had been together for a good couple of years, and players that were playing so well, like when you've got you guys like Amoni and Sean Stevenson, like players like that are coming through in leaps and bounds and playing so well, it energises the squad. And yeah, it was just like when when you're winning and you're playing well, like the weeks become easy. And
Yeah.
we could, like, in the language that Don had started to use, like he was like, this is our year, like this is the year that we've been building towards in terms of our getting our squad to where we were, and instill confidence in us.
Yeah, and then how hard is it post that when it doesn't quite end up being that year?
Yeah, it hurts. It hurts. Like, it's just not the same, really. Like your whole year, and especially like for where I was and where Webby was in terms of a player and the boys like that. We knew this was our last opportunity, and we'd put the work in to put ourselves in that position of being in the final. And we knew from previous years how hard it was to travel in terms when you come to playoffs. So we knew we wanted to get that top spot so that we could play at home to give ourselves the best opportunity. And like I say, we did everything we set out to do except for that final hurdle. And yeah, it's still like knowing that come post that game, I haven't been back to the Chiefs facility since. And knowing that, like you walked out of there and fell just short, it still eats away at you. That's for sure.
Do you see yourself heading back there at any point, or was that you definitely done at the Chiefs?
Nah, that's me definitely done. I think, and like by our own choice, the last couple of years, my wife and our two daughters have lived down in Napier, and I had lived in Hamilton by myself, like for Super Rugby.
Oh, true.
And the time of just doing that around schools and stuff was better for us, but it sort of not took its toll, but I was definitely ready to give it up. I think similar to the All Blacks, like I knew I'd had my time there, and I don't see myself going back to play for the All Blacks. So I've got 3 seasons here, and we'll see what happens. But otherwise, we call Napier our home now. So not having a franchise based in the town is also a good reason not to go back to Super Rugby.
Well, that's interesting because that's a big commitment, to obviously apply your trade away from your family, especially on your days off. And I guess I know it'll be hard for your wife as well to have to do that by herself. So it's definitely a big commitment to do that, playing in a different franchise to where your family are living.
Yeah, I mean it was I wouldn't say hard, but like it definitely had its challenges around, like with a 5 and a 7-year-old, like but we just thought it was better in terms of being around some family back in Hawke's Bay, and we didn't want to have to move them school every 6 months. So that was what we did. But yeah, it's definitely been nice. Like it almost felt a little bit weird to come to Japan and just be around the kids and 24/7 again. Like it was like I actually get to hang around and have some fun with them rather than just coming home for a night and then disappearing early in the morning again.
Yeah, oh, that's cool. And you mentioned you're at Kobe for 3 years. How was your body?
Yeah, we were straight into this first one, then 2 more. So the body's actually in really good shape. Like I dislocated my shoulder like 4 or 5 years ago, and apart from that, touch wood, like I have no other sort of niggles. Like one of the physios here comes from New Zealand, does a couple of weeks. He goes, "Mate, you're actually in good shape, eh?" And I was like, "Yeah, I am. I feel like I am."
Yeah.
It takes a little bit older. It takes a little bit longer to recover as you get older. Like, it's not, you don't bounce back quite as well on a Monday morning. But in terms of the body, it's actually in a good spot.
And do you see yourself retiring on your own terms post that Kobe contract, or would you potentially go again? Go till the wheels fall off?
that's, that's what everyone says, eh? Is like just hang in there because going to work every day is not as good as going to training. uh, I think I'd probably like to stay a little bit longer than the 3 seasons if it works out.
Yeah.
If not, we'll head back to Napier. I always like Crockett. Obviously, as you know him probably pretty well, but like I thought the way he did it, like he went back and played for Tasman, immerse himself back into a normal, not rugby life, is a good way to do it. So if that was the way to be, I hope maybe if they wanted me, like go play a season or two for the Magpies and work your way back into it rather than go to cold turkey. It's kind of a little bit daunting, like knowing rugby is all I've ever known and not kind of held down a full-time job. So don't really have too much planned post-rugby at the moment, that's for sure.
Yeah, what are you thinking there, or just no idea? Would you get into coaching?
It's a good question, eh? Like, I've changed my mind plenty of times, like what I think I'm going to do, and
Yeah.
like as life goes, like you end up in different spots or like different things. I feel like I don't know if I would be a coach, like in terms of maybe a Super Rugby coach. I could be like maybe ITM Cup. I just feel like I've had the best kind of experience from learning some of the best coaches in the world for a long time, and like whether I can get that across to young players is a different question. But I haven't made too many final decisions around what I'll do yet, like post rugby, because like you say, you actually don't know when it's going to finish, do you?
Yeah, and I guess the other thing is, especially with coaching, is if you want to settle in Hawke's Bay, how long would you be there for? Are you going to continue chasing that sort of dream of being that coach and moving around every time you get your next contract, etc.? So I'm guessing you want to be pretty settled in Hawke's Bay with your family and watch your kids grow up there.
That's probably one like downside of having being a professional rugby player. Like you always want the next best thing or to improve yourself, to challenge yourself more. But we've obviously moved around a little bit over the last 10, 12 years, so I'm pretty set on getting back to Hawke's Bay and just settling down there and staying put for a while.
Mate, how good. It would be good to see you back out there for the Magpies. You'll have a few Magpie fans excited.
I went back there for a few weeks 2 years ago, like around the injury, and it was good fun. Like I hope, I'm not sure what the future of it looks like in terms of everything that's going on in New Zealand rugby, but like it's pretty awesome to be a part of, you know.
Yeah, mate, you would have some good times there. But mate, what a career! We're going real good. We'll go through some questions here. We've gone to the Instagram, plenty have come in for you, mate. Most of them are around your nickname. Everyone's fascinated with the nickname Guzzler. How'd you get it?
Well, people ask me like, and they often refer to like drinking or my cars, but like it actually got nothing to do with me. So when I turned up to the Chiefs in 2012, my cousin Cullum, who had been there for the last 2 years, and that was his nickname. It was Guzzler.
Oh,
and they were like, and obviously some of those boys are still there. They're like, you're exactly like Cullum, like you're just a guzzler like him. And I was like, what is this? What is this nickname? And we both like look pretty similar, I suppose, too. Like I just got stuck with it, But it's actually his nickname. It's like,
how did he get it? Was his on the piss or?
I think it might have been a question he answered around someone. And
Oh, I thought it was going to be a massive diesel capacity to neck one, but
no, that's what I mean. I'm like, it's probably a bit of a letdown for a lot of people, but I just got shunned with it because of cousins.
Okay, next one. Ham and cheese story, please. What is that? It's from Brad Weber, so it's usually good. He comes in with good questions, usually old Brad Weber.
Late, there was a wee pre-season game like over in Malula Bar or something like this, like pre-Super Rugby, and we're having a few beers, like a bit of team bonding going on, and anyway, me and Mitch Brown, loose walk to the Chiefs, we decided to have like one-on-one scrums because anyway, I got absolutely folded and ended up sitting on top of the toasty machine. And they were like, "You just got ham and cheese. Give me another toasty." I still reckon he pushed early, but I haven't lived that down, especially from Webby, that's for sure.
That's good stuff. Mitch Brown loves it too, eh? He's always
Yeah.
he's always
The
right.
fair gave me another chance, and then he buckled me again, so it's fair play to him.
Oh, good stuff. Okay, next one. If you could pick one Northern Hemisphere player all time to play with, who would it be?
Oh, that's a good question. All time. Probably the first one that comes to mind is Johnny Wilkinson, eh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, probably just like with my age and like watching him at those World Cups and how good a player he was with his left foot. Like, we were obviously not left foot kickers, but used to go and imitate his kicking style and down at the rugby club and stuff. So I'd love to play alongside Johnny Wilkinson.
Mate, you and him would have had a dream combo.
Kicking goals left, right, and centre.
Okay, next one. What's been the hardest moment for you during your career to deal with?
Compared to a lot of players, I feel like I haven't had a lot of adversity. You know, like I haven't never really been dropped. Like, I haven't been dropped from the All Blacks. I hadn't been dropped from the Chiefs. I hadn't lost a contract. But like, and probably the hardest thing I had to deal with was, and it wasn't even really that hard to be honest, but when I dislocated my shoulder, like heading towards the World Cup. But again, like I never had surgery from it. I just rehabbed it, and it stayed in place. So I'm not going to say anything was really a massive challenge compared to what the cards that some players have dealt with. You know,
Mate, that's crazy, eh? Like, what do you put that down to? Firstly, the lack of injuries, and obviously you haven't been dropped. That's down to just being so good. But it's incredible to have as little setbacks as you have throughout such a long career.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's just good luck with some of them. And like, I don't know, like some things are just like you in conversation that you pick up. Always remember Mike Cron telling me when I'd only been in the All Blacks for a couple of years, he's like, not a lot of people stay here without being dropped. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And he's like, some people come in here young, but they'll be dropped for a squad or two. And then I always just stuck in my head, like as motivation, like you'd finish a year and go back home and be training by yourself with your mates. And I just always think, like, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be one of those ones that has 1 or 2 good years and then gets the wobbles and comes back. And I don't know, just like little comments like that have just always stuck with me in the back of my mind.
Mate, that's awesome. It's obviously paid off because, mate, never being dropped. That's got to be a stat. First player to never be dropped from any team ever.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember when he said it. I think he said Richie and Dan were like the only two, and this was like 2014, and I was like, man, that's pretty impressive. Like, I don't want to be one of those guys. I don't want to be someone that it happens to, like, through my own decisions. Like, yeah.
Mate, that's cool. Love that. Okay, hardest person to go up against at line-out time?
Probably the 3 Crusader locks that I played against most: Sam, Scott, and Luke Romano. Like, you think you know how a team's going to defend, and then you come up against them and they'll change everything you planned for that week's changed, and you've got to think of ways around them. Like, they definitely switched on. Especially, I remember Luke playing with cards with Luke Romano. Like, he has unbelievable memory, and then that's what he takes into his lineouts. He remembers moves you did 2 years ago, and I'm like, I don't even remember that, mate. Like, but, I remember playing versus Victor Matfield. I think it was Chiefs versus the Bulls, and I was like, just called myself. He was standing right beside me, and I was like, I'm going to just see if I can win the line out right beside him. And he picked it off. So he was pretty quick as well. Sharp learning curve. Eh? Don't call a line out for yourself right beside Victor Matfield.
Oh, good stuff, Kay. What's the story behind the try celebration? Few for this one too, actually. People love that one.
When I went to Hawke's Bay and then ended up moving out of my cousin's place and flatting with a couple of guys I played for, like Mark Rugby Club is in Hawke's Bay Central, and that was just like the try celebration. It was just like the rock on, throw it up, and then when I made it to, I think I was going to make it to the Magpies, they were like, if you score a try, you better make sure you do the celebration. And it's just stuck, you know. I'm like, I guess let's go put a salute to the rock music that I like and the bogans out there, and just carried on.
Did you do it when you scored the? I think you won try of the year one year, didn't you, with that big dummy? Did you do it for that try?
I think I might have done it even before I scored scored the try. I was like, couldn't believe my luck when they bet on the dummy.
Mate, what a try that was!
It's got caught up in the
Absolute
moment.
glory days. Oh, okay, good stuff. Next one. Which Chiefs player did you square up with the most at training?
I don't know. There's probably no one in particular. Like I touched on earlier, like in those early days, it was like just what it was, you know, like
Yeah.
boys just getting stuck into each other. I remember times where like Romana Graham absolutely flattened Hicker Elliott, and Josh Honick, Liam Messam. Like it was just the way we trained, and it was like if you didn't want to lose, you had to do what you had to do to win.
Anyone. You were just happy to go after anyone. Sounds like my nightmare on a Thursday.
Sean Stevenson used to get stuck in me trying to quite a bit. Just trying to wind me up.
Okay. What'd you say to Pete O'Mahony?
I said what was reported.
What did he say? Did he bite back?
No, he said nothing. He
Oh,
said,
yeah.
but like I guess like we're talking about getting stuck into each other, and when they beat us in Wellington, and in that series, like he was just into us on the field, like just spraying us left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
And like I said, like I enjoy it, and then when you're having your day, then you let you know. But I'm definitely going to give it back when we're having our day. And what better moment than that one right there after the penalty? That's for sure.
Oh, let's crack up. Okay. How did Brodie bulk up?
How did I bulk up? I don't know if I've ever bulked up, have I?
How heavy are you now? You must be like, what, 120?
Yeah, I was at the World Cup. I was 124. But when I didn't probably allude to it earlier, but when I left high school, I was like 128 kgs.
128, were you?
Yeah.
Oh, far out.
And like we didn't go to the gym, so like it was all just weight, like out of shape, you know. And like
Yeah.
I didn't really used to jump in the line out because obviously
No one could lift you.
no one in our team went to. I think Owen Franks was like 3 years in front of me at school when he was the only one at school that used to lift weights. Like no one in my year lifted weights. So. For people that know skin folds out there, the first time I got skin folded, which I didn't even know what skin folds were,
Yeah.
I asked her and I said, "Oh, what was it?" And she was like, "Oh, you were 227."
227.
Yeah, and I turned around and said to her, "Oh, is that any good?" And she was like, "No."
I can confirm it is not.
Currently, Scott skin folded maybe a week ago. I think I was 83, if that puts into perspective.
Oh, wow. And have you been basically that range your whole career, around 83? 227 is massive.
Yeah. Sometimes I've been in the 70s, but like
Yeah.
I was like that weight as 19, 20-year-old, and then I just obviously got in the gym and put some muscle on. But I'm actually lighter than when I started at Hawke's Bay. You know, I'm like most of the time I'm around 121, 122. But people with long levers, long arms and legs are not built for the gym. Let's just say that.
No massive scores like I've been seeing going around at the moment with all at camps. And
The only one I'll do good at is a running test, and
the Bronco.
not the speed, but a Bronco.
Yeah. What was your best Bronco?
I think my best Bronco was a 441 or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
True.
which was
Pretty
at start of 219 when we did it.
Nice, mate. You're hissing. Okay, next one. Do you remember what you said to Ali Williams at Macca's at 3 a.m. before you were an All Black?
Well, he claims that I said to him, "I'm going to take your jersey one day." I do not recall having this conversation with Alfie Williams. So whether it was a big night on the diesel and I said that, that's what he believes. But
Yeah. Oh, is that a story that he said before?
after he always goes to me, remember that night at McDonald's when you told me you're going to take my jersey? And then he went up to after I made my debut, he went up to my mum and said, your son, he told me one night that he's going to take my jersey. And my mum was like, did you say that to Ali Williams? I was like, I do not remember this. But he might have been more confused than me. By chance.
Yeah, both of you, to be fair. Okay, two more. Now, did you ever meet with the official Guzzler fan club in Vietnam?
I met someone one time in Hamilton come up to me and said, there's a Guzzler fan club in Vietnam. And I was like, what? And then he showed me all these photos and they had like some banners up and stuff like that. So I'm not sure if he was an official member, but I've seen some photos of the setup.
It wasn't your cousin.
No, it wasn't my cousin. It wasn't Ali Williams.
Okay, what's your dream car to own?
Dream car. Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, you love it, eh? You love the cars.
Yeah, I love my cars. There's I don't know if there's one I could put it down to. I've probably got them, to be fair. I've got a little bit of everything. I've got a Rotary, I've got a V8, got a Cruiser, so I'm pretty content with what I've got.
Mate, that's why you've spent so much time in Japan, or that's why you've signed 3 years.
I'm going to stay here as long as I can. Yeah.
Okay, last question. Best piece of advice you have for a Woodland listener?
Best piece of advice. If you're going to turn up to training, then give it your best. I think someone told me that once, and like in hindsight, if you're prepared to turn up and train, then give it everything. And I guess question that mentality, have I done enough? And if you think you haven't done enough, then do some more.
Mate, I love that. It's such a good way to finish. And going through your journey, the fact that you've never been dropped, you've only been injured basically once in 10 years. You've obviously done that at training. You've put in the effort every time you've been out there, and the rewards speak for themselves with what you've done in your career and continue to do over there in Japan. But, mate, appreciate you coming on the podcast. You are a true lad, true legend of New Zealand rugby, so it's been awesome to get you on and go through your career and hear how you've done it.
No, thanks for having me. When I saw your post of the 6 Chiefs players, and I was the last one not to get on, I was like, no, I can't leave them fall short. I better get on here. I think this is probably I think I've done one podcast before this, but it's been good fun. So thanks for having me.
No, I appreciate it. You're a true legend.
Bloody good.